Before you buy your next petrol, heck even hybrid car, consider this first. The 2024 Tesla Model 3 just got bigger, better and even more affordable. If you didn't know, the legacy Model 3 was a formidable car, and I say that from both an independent traditional media reviews and, more importantly, from personal experience. Definitively, this was the car that changed my whole perspective on how I viewed electric cars, as it did for many others. However, there were critics.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong.
Simply put, the Model 3 was not premium enough for its price tag. Tesla very much took this criticism personally, as it should. Then came the upgrades to the newly refreshed 2024 Tesla Model 3. You could say it is somewhat of a formal response to its biggest critics yet, and it's formidably cheaper to buy in a world where inflation is buoyant.
It's true, hey, it's true.
It has more range, better suspension for a smoother ride, better sound isolation, and a truly modern interior that make legacy petrol cars weep as the realization of it becoming the Nokia of personal transportation starts to gain traction.
Houston, we have a problem.
Which brings me to a single defining question for this entire 10-minute video. As I said earlier, if you're in the market for a new car, do not consider a new petrol car, even a pesky hybrid. Instead, you should consider a newly refreshed Tesla Model 3. Why so? Well, this video will explain exactly why the 2024 Tesla Model 3 will make owning and operating an electric car a more obvious choice than ever before. We will consider the larger range, price tag, and of course, the interior specs. If you have around 10 minutes spare, I will address swiftly and precisely just why this rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 should be your next car. So if this video sounds like an interesting insight, buckle up, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and finally hit that notification bell. Right, let's get deep into the reasons why. Firstly, if I was to tell you the average price of BMWs has increased 40% in as little as 3 years, would you believe me?
He's joking.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe myself either, but according to this article, prices have been far surpassing headline inflation, and this isn't isolated to BMW. Mercedes reported a figure of 39% and VW a more modest 19%. Taking into account all the brands over a 5-year period, it works out at 40%. That begs the question, are you getting 40% more of a car than you did 3 or even 5 years ago? Hell no. Is the new refreshed Tesla Model 3 40% more car? Yes, potentially more. But wait, Adam, that is straight up fanboy talk, right? Well, it's a fact this car has changed over 50% of its parts over the previous iteration, and that doesn't take into account the monthly changes in between that time either. The price of the legacy Model 3 3 years ago here in the UK was £40,490 after the £3,000 grant. This heavily revised and premium upped new Tesla Model 3 can be bought for £39,990, £500 cheaper, or a whopping £9,160 cheaper if adjusted for inflation. So to start with, we've established very early on this 2024 Tesla Model 3 is significantly cheaper to buy and that it received 50% new parts. But do those parts make up for a better experience, better range, or is it mere marketing talk? Well, starting with the range, the figure that everyone looks at no matter what carrot is dangled in front of them, how much range can this vehicle do then? This one right here is rated to do 344 miles WLTP. 3 years ago, paying £500 more, you would have got 263 miles range. So it's clear you're now getting more range for your money. Congratulations. If your initial thought is, Adam, that sounds great, but it's still not nearly enough range, you think you need 400 to 500 miles minimum, right?
Yeah, something like that.
The average driver simply does not need that extra 60 to 140 miles. That minimum quoted range requirement is simply down to embedded habits of owning a petrol car. To expand on that point, we tend to fill the fuel tank and refuse to fill it up until the fuel lights flicker and then it starts to scream low fuel tones. Hey, I'm not judging, we've all been there before. With an electric car, you can refill your battery little but often by charging from home without sacrificing convenience. If you work on hard facts and figures, to put range into perspective, The US Department of Transportation states that the average annual mileage is around 13,476 miles, and that dwarfs the UK's measly 5,506 miles per annum. But at that 13,476 mile figure, if you convert that to a weekly figure, that's equivalent to driving 260 miles a week. For most people, they have access to off-road parking at home, and so then they have access to the convenience of home charging facilities, even via your typical home plug socket will do. A single day of driving on average then totals 36 miles a day, so it's evident that on average, you don't even have to plug in every night. You can do the maths here, right? With 344 miles rated range, day-to-day driving should give you zero range anxiety. But hold up, Adam, you're not talking long-haul road trips here. Electric cars are for short trips only. You've read that somewhere, right?
Hell no!
Well, me and my wife surpassed the UK average mileage figure, and we've done more road trips than ever before in this past year, and I still only use the Tesla supercharger just 5% of the time. 344 miles driving at 60 miles per hour on average is 5 hours and 40 minutes of driving time. That's plenty of driving time before making a 30-minute stop for food, drink, the loo, the essential human stuff.
You idiot!
So range anxiety is this defense mechanism in your mind until you realize your average day-to-day needs can be covered by home charging. Even if you do around 13,000 miles a year, having a new Tesla Model 3 is still very much achievable. In 2024, range is no longer a major defining factor for the average driver, and in 2020, this model would have been called a long-range Model 3 and set you back another £6,000. Not so much heading into 2024. Okay, Adam, so far you've told me range isn't in my head and it costs lower than initially thought, but tell me why I shouldn't just buy another new petrol car. In a nutshell, without blurting out the fancy features, what is so special about going electric with a Tesla? Well, it's probably the biggest question of them all, so much so that I'll pop a dedicated video on the screen now, but personally I believe that you should buy this car on merit alone. Forget about the environmental factors, don't even think about it. If you're buying a car, firstly you want a pleasurable driving experience. You'd want crazy light maintenance requirements because being stuck in a garage is no fun for anyone. We know that's quite a painful experience, especially for the old back pocket. Finally, generally, you want something fun to drive and ideally to be freakishly cheap to run. This car ticks all those boxes, and that's why it's a freak of nature. Firstly, the nippy torque doesn't falter with age. The beauty of power on demand is that taking that nippy approach is highly addictive, and it doesn't seem to fall away with the length of ownership. Don't get me wrong, 0 to 60 for a rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 isn't a timesheet setter, but just day to day, its electric DNA means 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds still feels incredibly fast for everyday usage. The gearless automatic experience means driving is seamlessly smooth, and the regenerative braking is unrivaled compared to a petrol motor. It's actually addictive to rely on regenerative braking, as taking your foot off the accelerator is just typical behaviour when you want to slow down. Another cheeky reason to rely on regen braking is that changing your brake pads after just a few years will be a habit of the past. Just because your day-to-day car will be electric doesn't mean you drive a milk float. Respectively, it is a different experience to driving a petrol car, but different does not mean bad. I'd highly recommend taking a test drive so you can see exactly what I mean. So before I conclude matters, what is the hype about this brand new 2024 Tesla Model 3? We know it's got more range, but what I haven't revealed is that Tesla's focus was about making this car look and feel more premium. To you and I, that's using more premium materials all around the interior of the car that is touched. Heated and ventilated seats as standard, better sound isolation, and a better suspension setup to enable a smoother journey for you and your passengers. Talking about passengers, they can take over the music, stream Netflix, Twitch or YouTube right from the back seat with a newly introduced rear screen. It's even been announced that Tesla has introduced a HEPA filter for the Model 3 for the very first time, and that means that the cabin air that you breathe will be filtered to a refreshing level for the very first time. As I mentioned before, 50% of the parts have been changed, and the interior is probably the biggest difference to the naked eye. If you want a more detailed breakdown of the new Model 3 changes, take a look at the video on the screen now. So to conclude, the new Model 3 rear-wheel drive is the entry-level Tesla offering. But as you've just been informed, this delivers that highly anticipated premium Tesla experience, from range, driving experience to interior features, at a ridiculously competitive price. This car will cover your range requirements, save you time and money on maintenance, plus the petrol versus electric charging cost savings will stack up to something like this. Don't believe me still? Go test drive a Tesla Model 3. The 2024 Tesla Model 3 is now on sale in mainland Europe and China. Commencing January 2024, the UK will start delivering to consumers, and I'd expect the same in the US to follow too. To know what you're getting into, I'd highly recommend you take that test drive. Try it out, see if the hype is real. It will truly give you a flavour of what modern transportation could be like for you. So what do you folks think? Did this video help you today? Is the new rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 twisting your arm yet? If so, what is the driving factor for you? If you want to let me know you got this far in the video, you can drop me the comment, Alien Tech EV, and I'll give you a cheeky thumbs up for sticking to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share the video with your friends and family. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.